Hi everyone, my name is Nitya, and you are at my Flosstube channel, Daybreak Stitchery. This is a channel all about cross stitch today. I'm doing crochet, but I didn't bring any of it to show you. It is actually the end, well, it's actually July 1st today, but I usually check in at the end of every month or every couple of months and just show you what I've been working on. And I have tons to show you. I've been stitching a lot. I have books to share with you too, and I'm gonna hopefully do a little bit of garden chat at the end of this video too, if it doesn't get too long. So I think I'm just gonna jump right in, and I have a lot of small finishes, so I'd like to show those to you. So let's get to some stitchy talk. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in the Chicagoland area, which is on the unceded lands of the Council of the Three Fires, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. So let's do some finishes. Okay, first up, this is a quick finish that I have just finished recently. I mean, you'll notice for my regular friends who check in with me, you'll notice I'm in a different space today. Steve is out watching the Euros with a buddy, so it's soccer season. Well, every time of the year feels like soccer season, but it's a particularly important time for soccer right now. So anyway, he's out watching the game, so I didn't have to take all my stuff down to my stitchy spot in the basement. I'm just gonna throw it right back behind the couch when I finish this video. So different stitchy space, but I have a couple of stitched items hung up here. It's just hard to see. My camera probably won't focus, but this is Autumn Quaker by Bygone Stitches, I think. And then up here is Isabella's Heart by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I have an ink circles there, but these will be cut off, I think, so I won't say too much about that. Okay, so I finished this little friend here. So this is Quirky Quaker Butterfly. It looks like this. It's by Darling and Whimsy Designs. And it's just a teeny tiny thing. It's 41 by 41 stitches. So here's mine. Really, it calls for two colors, this brown here and then the orange. I added a third color. I wanted to add black, and that's because I wanted to make it a tribute to Monarch butterflies, which have kind of orange and black colors on them. And so I added the black as an accent color. And this is my first little finish to kick off a stitch along that I'm starting with Amy Graham, who's a wonderful person and a stitcher who you might know through Instagram. Also, I think it was the Megan and Megan from Long Distance Stitchers actually had Amy on with them. Am I thinking of the right? I think this is the right Flosstube. I'll find it and I'll link it below if you want to get to know Amy on video. I think there's a way we can do that. I'll find that video and link it. But anyway, Amy and I are starting a stitch along called the Monarch Watch Sal. Do I have it written down anywhere? I don't, so I'll either throw some text up here or I'll list everything down below. Monarch Watch Sal. Amy and I both love monarch butterflies, and we both grow the plants, milkweed plants that are necessary for monarch butterflies to live on. They lay their eggs on it and eat, feed off of that plant too. So very important native plant to us. And so we're doing a stitch along. We're stitching on anything with monarchs on them. So in the plans section of today, I'll go through. I actually had a monarch pattern from Stash, and then I have a couple that I've picked up, and there's so many. Lots of people have designed with monarchs in mind. So this is one, and there will be tons. I'll show you others too. I have two patterns that I'm doing a couple giveaways in this video. So one of the patterns will be this. If you're interested in winning this pattern, I'll mail it anywhere. Please follow all the usual giveaway guidelines. So please don't mention giveaway or anything related to giveaways. You have to share your address with me if you win, so please be 18 or older. You have to be okay with, if this gets lost in postage or anything like that, it won't be replaced. So if you're okay with taking the risk of the mailing, do that. And let me know. Let's use a keyword. But monarch. Let's use monarch as the keyword. if you'd like me to pass this along. I kind of feel like all my regular viewers might already have this, but if you don't have it and you're looking for it, I'm happy to pass that along. So Monarch is the keyword for this one. Okay, more about Monarch. Watch Sal in a little bit. I'll show you this pattern again. This is on 18 Count Chinchilla by Mystic Fabrics. And these are just colors from Stash. And that's that. Okay. Do I have something else I want to say about it? No. Okay, next up, I have a teeny tiny finish. I've been trying to do a lot of tiny stitching, so 1/1. And this is a teeny thing that I put together called, it's from a Little House Needleworks pattern. It's this pattern. And it's called Traveling Stitcher. And so it has two patterns in it, actually. It has this little square, it makes like this little needle pocket thing. So it has a bigger piece for the larger pocket, and then a smaller piece, smaller stitched piece for the like little scissor pocket. And so I just did the small one, but it's really small because it's 1/1 on 28 count. So this pattern, and all the called for flosses for it, there are like 4 or 5 flosses. They're all Classic Colorworks. I actually got I got the pattern, a piece of witched, like a fat quarter of linen, 28 count linen, and then the 4 or 5 called for flosses. I got for just $3 at a Stash sale. So I'm a member of the Windy City chapter of the Embroiderers Guild of America, and so they told us that a neighboring guild, I think it was like a Northern Illinois chapter maybe, or I don't know what all the other chapters are in our state, but a member had passed away. And they said that they wanted to sell all of their items, not for a huge profit, but just you know, at a reasonable rate, so that it would go to loving people who love stitching. They wanted to pass it along and make just a little bit for their chapter of the guild. So that's what, there were so many like fully kitted up kits for patterns were maybe $1-ish, and then kitted up things were like $3, and some were $5. They had those huge boxes. Sometimes there are like antique sampler patterns that come in a cardboard box with all the floss, like, you know, 30 flosses in there, and those were all, you know, $10 or 15 or 20 bucks. So I picked up a few things. So this is one of the things I picked up. So I may have to get adventurous and try my first needle book. I may do that. I'm not sure exactly what to do with this. I have a needle pouch that I use, so I don't personally need a needle book, but I could always make one to gift or to give away, so maybe I'll do that. But I thought the pattern was very sweet. It has this little bee and some different like buds and floral motifs there, so very nice. Okay, so this one I'm partially, okay, I'm going to hold on to the linen, but I'm passing the flosses and pattern to Sarah, so they're coming your way soon, Sarah. Passing that along. Okay, next up, I'm excited to show you this one because I think it's so pretty. I was working on it last month, so you've kind of seen it. This is a Remembrance Sampler, and it's by Ancient Sage Designs. It's Shazita, who's Ancient Sage Designs, and it's, oh gosh, I don't remember. There's cultural significance to this. It's based on a ceramic piece, and I don't remember which culture. It could be, it's South Asian of some kind, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's Persian. And it's supposed to be poppies. So she made it kind of her write-up in the pattern talks all about the significance of poppies, you know, it means a lot of things in different cultures. And, you know, in the Western world, it's usually related to Memorial Days and remembering lost lives. So I chose a color from Stash that matched a poppy. I had a single poppy in my garden, and so I chose a color to match that poppy. So this is on a 36 count linen. I think it might be wheat by Fiber on a Whim, 36 count, and it's using 2 strands over 2. Isn't that lovely? I definitely want to frame this and put it up. Clearly I need more. I feel like I need to fill in this space. It's very low. Like, this part of the wall is pretty low. It's only like 4 feet off the ground right here, so I'm kind of hesitant to put stuff that low. But when I'm filming, it might be nice to have some more pieces hung up there. So So, Remembrance Sampler, Ancient Sage Designs. Okay, next up I joined Marjorie, who's Marjorie Made, and she was doing in June, because the moon in June is nicknamed Strawberry Moon. She was doing a Strawberry Moon stitch along, Strawberry Moon sale. So I stitched 2 pieces with strawberry. I think the sale was just stitch on anything with strawberries. So I have 2 pieces to show you. So one is this Strawberry Lemonade Spool, and it's by Crafty Bluebonnet Designs. Crafty Bluebonnet Designs. And I was looking through some of their designs, and a lot of what they do are spools, decorative spools. So this, I feel I've never noticed them before, but this is a really pretty pattern. It almost looks like a needlepoint pattern on it. So it caught my eye right away, and I thought, okay, Strawberry Lemonade fits the strawberry theme, so there we go. So let me show you what I did. Here's mine. Isn't that lovely? So it's on a 40 count, hold on, 40 count truffle by Picture This Plus, and it's 2 strands over 2, so it got pretty tight. The stitches got pretty tight in there. It was snug. I used colors from Stash. They're not identical. In the pattern it uses blue, red and blue. Here I made it red and green, which I think still looks lovely because, you know, strawberries have green leaves anyway, so it's kind of a nod to that. So I really love this thing. I want to put it in a tiny frame maybe and leave it up on a bookcase or something. I don't, my finishing options are always very limited. I always just kind of frame something, or that's pretty much it. I feel like I have made pillows before. I haven't made a pillow in a while. Maybe I'll make it a little pillow. We'll see. But I just love looking at it. I think it's got that like tapestry feel that I really like when all the stitches are close together, and the colors look nicely coordinated. So it's a pretty pattern. So this will be my next giveaway. This is my other giveaway. So if anyone would like to stitch on this, let's use strawberry as the keyword, and then just please follow all the usual giveaway guidelines, and yeah, everything I mentioned before about giveaways too. Okay. Next, oh no, I did one more strawberry piece for the Strawberry Moon stitch along. This is on a piece of 28 count. I've got a few pieces going on this, so I don't want to show everything right away. Okay, so I did this tiny little piece, and it's a tribute to Beit Lahia, which is a town in the northern part of Gaza in Palestine, and it's known for its strawberries. It's the strawberry farm area of Gaza, although now I don't know, it's really been destroyed. A lot of it has been destroyed, so I don't know what's going on there with the farms. But I wanted to make it a little tribute. I think of Palestine all the time. It's always on my mind. So how did I do this? The strawberry comes from this pattern. It's Cedar Hill Country, and it comes with these 2 patterns. There's a fresh eggs, and the strawberry pattern is called Strawberry Stencil. And so I just took one of those strawberries. And this came in that Stash sale I was telling you about. What they were doing actually is they had boxes and boxes of packs of like 2 or 3 patterns that they had put into Ziploc bags. So you'd like pull up a bag, it would have 2 or 3 patterns in it, and those would be like $1 or $3. So this was in a $1 bag with 2 other items. And I just thought, oh, it's got these cute strawberries. I know I want to stitch on something for Strawberry Moon Sal, so let me pick it up. And then, so I just did the 1 strawberry. And then I picked up, I don't remember who it is, but I'll list, oh no, it's a Hong Kong, it's stitching from HK. It's a Hong Kong stitching designer. And they had, on their Etsy shop, they had designs for different cross-stitch fonts. So I picked up this, it's like a papyrus font. And so I stitched the name of the town with that font. So there's that. And I think that turned out pretty well too. So both of those make up my contributions for Strawberry Moon Style. Okay, next up I'm gonna have to put a picture in here because I've already given this next finished item. I had been working for way too long on a very simple bookmark. The pattern says "Hands Off My Book," and it's by King Cavill Crosses. And it was my contribution to my chapter of the Embroiderers Guild of America, the Windy City EGA. They're doing a project where they're having stitchers make bookmarks that they want to donate to the young adult section of the library that hosts most of our meetings. So everyone's been working on bookmarks, beautiful bookmark. Everyone's been turning in these gorgeous bookmarks. So I have these, I don't know where they are right now. Hang on a sec. I'm going to try to pull one up. Here we go. So I have these. I've showed them before. There's a vendor on Etsy called Cards of Wood Co. And they just make these like these flat wooden pieces that are cut in the size of bookmarks. So I've been using them to make like gifts for people. And then when I made my library piece too, I set it on one of these. So I'll just show you one. They come in all different, like I just picked a mixed pack. So it's all different finishes of wood. And it's just very super thin, like almost, it's basically the thickness of a cardstock. And a pretty decent size. What I've been finding is when I stitch bookmarks, you do have to think a little bit about what the finished size is going to be and how much space it will take up on here. Like that King Cavill Crosses one pretty much came flush with the size of this bookmark. But some bookmarks, what was I seeing? Oh, I think it was those ones that they're still around here somewhere. The ones I had shown you last month, I had stitched a couple that I made. I stitched on them La Vie en Rose, and then I had another King Cavill bookmark pattern where I had to tweak some of the motifs because it would have been it was for a much larger, like, width and length bookmark. So I wanted to be able to mat it on these. So, but that one by King Cavill Crosses worked out, and I was able to take it to my guild meeting this week and pass that along, so that was good. Okay, next up, I have 2 Stitch for Pride finishes. I fell behind on Stitch for Pride, but I had fun catching up. So if we go back to the May installment, so Stitch for Pride is a stitch along by Dee from Dee's 20 Stitches, and the goal is to do some learning about, so back it up, each month there's an artist from the queer community who's featured, a professional, like a well-known kind of professional artist and their work. So there's a learning piece where you learn about them, and then Dee has put together a pattern that's kind of a nod or a tribute to them. So this one is by, the May installment is by an artist named Yishai Garbez. Yishai Garbez is the pronunciation. Yishai Garbez is a living artist who has videos on YouTube. So from a language teacher, a tip for you if you need pronunciations for names is this is what I tell my students too. Like if there's an artist or celebrity they want to look at, like a musician they want to look up and they don't know how to pronounce the name, search them up for on YouTube interviews with them, and then they'll introduce themselves, or like the moderator will say their name, and then you'll have their name. So Yishai Garbez has really interesting videos on YouTube. Like there's a really interesting, it's just a short video introduction of an art exhibit that's going on with their work, and so she does a really interesting discussion of pronouns in German, which I found interesting because there's an issue with inclusive pronouns in French as well. It's a very gendered language, so it was just neat to hear her perspective on that. And then she has this really cool video where she's training for a triathlon. She wants to be the first European, she might have done it already, I don't know how old that video was. She wants to be the first European woman, trans woman, to like complete a triathlon. And so she goes through her training, and it's a really fantastic video about like body image, being positive, body positivity and things like that. So I recommend watching some of her interviews on YouTube. So this is a tribute to one of her art installations that's all about borders, and it's a chain link fence, like one you might see separating Palestinians and Israeli folks on the West Bank. So she did a exploration of that. What does that do to people, and how does it other people when you use like objects to divide people? So I kept this on the same, so this is on the same piece as Beit Lahia, and this one I just stitched over 2, though. It just felt more substantial. You know, chain link fence is like heavy, so it feels, I wanted to feel the weight of that, so I stitched over 2 on 28 count, which creates this enormous stitches, but it feels substantial enough, you know, that weight. So that was good fun to stitch. And then I also did the June installment of Stitch for Pride, was a tribute to Freda Koo. So I did that one as well. This is on, this linen that I've been showing you with these pieces on it, it came in, this was the linen that came in that kit for the little needle minder thing from the stash sale. So, or needle book. So I've just been, I don't usually stitch on 28 count, but I've been trying to stitch over 1 on 28 count. It's really easy to see over 1. So I've been using it for over 1 stitching, except for Yishai Garbez. I put the over 2 on that. But it feels witchelty, you know how it's kind of like slippery witchel linen, so I think that's what it is for that. But for this, for Freda, it's on a piece that's from Mystic Fabrics. I think this is Bernie. This might be Bernie. And I chose, and it's just like an off-white, I had an off-white floss from Stash. It has a bit of variegation in it. If you look closely, you can kind of see, but, you know, it's kind of hard to see. And I wrote in Freda's first name here, too. I think it's, no, not I think. I'm pretty sure it's based on paintings. Freda Kahlo has these couple of paintings. I'll see if I can put a couple of the pictures up here. But it's like a monkey and something. It's like monkey and cat, monkey and parrot, I think is one. And both of them have really interesting color choice. It's like a lot of greenery, and then she's wearing a white blouse. It's like a self-portrait. So I just kept looking at those paintings. I thought, I think I want to make it like a literal nod to those paintings. So green for like the greenery, and then white for her clothing. So that was fun. That was good fun to do. I was very tempted. On these some of these patterns, and not just Stitch for Pride, on like We Go On as well, I've shown you in the past, I just can't stop stitching like multiples of them. They're so fun to stitch. I had to really stop myself. I had other things I was working on. I was like, stop, just do one. And then I didn't cut it out yet, just in case I feel like I want to go back and stitch, like, because I thought about doing another one of these, but like the mirror image. So like the monkey would be facing this way, but right up against it. So it would kind of create like an oval with both. I may still do that. I'm going to have to think about that. I didn't write down I don't know which white floss I used, so I'd have to just wing it on that one and see. But okay, so those are done. And believe it or not, I have one more. I have one more finished to show you. Okay, next up is, what is it called? Spring Sunshine. And this is it right here. Let me see if I can hold it so you can see the whole thing. So this is by Jan Hicks Creates, and it was in one of the recent Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazines. And I do have a subscription to that. It's exactly what it says it is. It's a lot of primitive stitching, which is not really my cup of tea, but every once in a while something like this pops up that really speaks to me. I did not use the called for colors. I just used colors from Stash. It's a lot of Cosmo. I was playing around with some Cosmo colors on this, and I did my own thing. And I just love it. I think all the color, I tried, some of the colors I chose, like these pinks and oranges, some of them come from colors in my garden from this spring, and others I just popped in there. I love yellow, so I put that in. So this is on another bit of that chinchilla that I put my Monarch Quirky Quaker butterfly on. That was a scrap from this fabric. Same color. So it's kind of a cloudy blue, and a lot of colors look really good on it. So this I'm gonna try. I think my plan for this, I really want to try to make my first flat fold. So I think that's what I'm gonna do with this one. Give it a go. It's an 18 count Ada. This one. Okay, that's all my finishes. Let's look at some whips. Okay, first up. Oh no, I have something. We're gonna do a quote from a book real quick. So, the new installment just came out for Stitch for Pride. And the artist's name is Jeffrey Gibson, and he's a First Nations artist. So he has Cherokee and Choctaw heritage, and his work, the piece this month is sort of a nod. It's not an imitation of one of his pieces, but it's like a nod to one of his pieces, and it's got these geometric kind of squares and triangles. He uses a lot of geometric shapes in his work. But the video, I was doing some of the learning bit of it today, and the video interview with him is really interesting. He's talking about an exhibit, and he calls them whimsies, but they're like tiny beaded trinkets. So like pillows, ornaments, like pendants, but they're all beaded, and they come from the 1800s. And they are from a time when First Nations people were trying to participate in colonial trade, basically. So they used the skill that they have, which is beading, which is a native practice, and tried to make things that they thought would appeal to like Western shoppers. And so he collects those, and he talks about beading in his videos. And I wanted to share a little quote from this book, Indigenous Ingenuity. It's actually a book for middle grade, but I saw it at a bookshop and I was just flipping through it, so I got it from my library. And it's basically a book for young people to describe like how did different First Nations groups from the Americas just do different things in life, like what was their economy, what were different economies like, how did clothing work, how they find food, how they keep food cold or keep food warm. And so it's just like a whole kind of an anthropology of practices and traditions from different First Nations groups. And so there's a part in here I flagged right when I got this book, all about beading. And I want to read it to you if it's okay. So the book again is Indigenous Ingenuity. And this is in a chapter about fashion and clothing. And there's a section here called Beading as Medicine. It's real quick. I'll read it to you real quick. Okay, the introduction of residential schools stifled Indigenous cultural expression. The varied forms of Indigenous beadwork and ornamentation that existed across Turtle Island. Turtle Island is what First Nations people here call this continent, often translates to Turtle Island. So the varied forms of Indigenous beadwork and ornamentation that existed across Turtle Island were forbidden in an effort to sever children from family and cultural ties. Today, the resurgence of traditional beading has opened a healing path for many Indigenous people, helping them to reclaim their indigeneity. Beading is ritual because it's time spent in long hours of silence, concentration, and even prayer. And beading is community because the cultural symbolism in beadwork ties the artist both to ancestors and to the cultural community at large. I loved reading that. We're going to go back to stitching here in a second, but that kind of sentiment, I love that sort of like hearing about First Nations thinking, because I kind of wonder, sometimes I entertain the idea of like, what would 2024 right here be like right now if the first Europeans who arrived on this continent didn't, if they like assimilated. Do you ever think about that? Like if they had just joined or like arrived as immigrants and just absorbed First Nations culture instead of imposing their cultures, what would that be like, and which practices and beliefs and traditions would have trickled to us now? I think about that sometimes. but I love that sentiment. Healing, the idea of like healing and community. Of course, those things are, you know, they mention the residential schools as well. And I don't know, that bit it's complicated and hard to hear about. And I don't know, things I think about. Okay, works in progress. We're back to D. So D released a pattern on March 31st. It's Trans Day of Visibility. I almost said invisibility. That's terrible. Trans Day of Visibility. And it's a pattern called Know Thyself. And it's beautiful. It kind of looks like a stained glass inspired pattern. And I worked on these medallions here while joining Jennifer, who is the curly stitcher, who you really should be watching if you aren't already. She's just a delightful person, like a wonderful human being. But she's been live streaming. She took this pattern and put it into, like, translated it for diamond painting. So she's diamond painting this pattern, and it's beautiful. It's very shiny and sparkly. And so she records these on Friday. Usually it's been on Fridays. She records kind of a live stream. So it's just kind of a quiet, calm Friday afternoon thing. You tune in. If you can stitch. She sometimes will chat on there. And if you chat with her, she'll respond. And so I worked on this during one of my chats with her. And I'll just keep it going. I really am enjoying it. It's on a piece of Picture This Plus. It's 18 count sterling is the color. And I'm using Cosmo flosses, except for the black. So yeah, I'll keep that going. And I love these very like primary colors, but they work together really well. So that's been a fun one to do. Jennifer's she's again the curly stitcher. And I'll link her Flosstube below. She's doing a very cool thing. She creates free, their patterns you donate, but she's not making money off of them. She's doing a monthly series called Burbs and Bandanas. So each month it's a bird wearing a bandana. So if you buy the pattern off of her Ko-Fi page, maybe I'll link directly to the Ko-Fi page so you can go straight to it and check it out. All the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to Freedom, Oklahoma and Outreach Denton in memory of Nex Benedict, which is really nice. Freedom, Oklahoma just had a beautiful Pride post. I don't know if you follow them on Instagram. That's another wonderful organization that's doing a lot of good for people there to include and represent people in Oklahoma. So check out Jennifer, and I think this pattern, I don't know if this is still available. I don't remember if it was just a one-day sale or if it's permanently available on Dee's page, but you can check them out and see. I don't know if it's still available. You'll have to check it out. Okay. Next up is one that I forgot to put here. Hold on. I'm going to grab it. Be right back. Okay, so next up I made a little bit of progress on Shipibo Textile. It's a pattern by Peruvian Flair, which is my friend Ana Aguayo. And her patterns are based on pre-Columbian textiles from Peru, which is where she's from. So she checks out patterns from pre-Columbian pieces, and that's what these works are based on. So this is a really small pattern. This is actually the bottom right here. So like these motifs will get repeated down here, and then this will be the bottom. So it's just this little, like a little bit of a rectangle. This is on a 28 count raw natural linen, and I'm using just some different colors from Stash to do it. So that's coming along. It kind of looks like a maze or a labyrinth, doesn't it? Some kind of, or like tiles. Anyway, it's very pretty, and I'm happy. Every time I work on it, I feel really happy. Anna's a very gifted designer. Okay. Next up, I put in a whole skein into 1 dozen Quakers. So I was lucky this month because I was able to, I had a lot of social stitching this month. I went to 2 guild meetings, one virtual and one in person. And then I stitched with Sarah, Julie, and Miriam, who are, we make up a group called the Quad City Needle Minders. I got to stitch with them. Veena Breaker, who I connected with at StitchCon. You might know her. You probably follow her on Instagram. Incredible stitcher, beautiful stitching. But she and I Zoom chatted and stitched, and that was so lovely. I loved being able to talk stitching with her. And then I joined the First Friday Zoom with EJ and Shelia and company to stitch on 1 dozen Quakers. And that bunch is a really fun bunch, fun and silly, and they have a good time. And so I hope to join in again. I think this Friday is the next one. Everybody is stitching on 1 dozen Quakers, and every single one is beautiful. Everyone's done different colorways. So here's mine. It's on a yellow tote bag, and it's using 3807, I think. Hold on. Let me see if I have a bit of it in here. I've been storing it in this bag. Nope. I think it's 3807. And I put in a full skein this month. So I started working on it on that Zoom call, and then I just kept going until the whole skein was used up. So I've done quite a bit. I kind of, when I get antsy about one motif, I move on to another one. And if I get close to where another one should start, I go ahead and start it. And so I've got like bits and pieces of several. I think most of the group is kind of going in order. EJ has sectioned off the pattern to have like a section for each month. And I'm not much of a I'm not much of a plan follower when it comes to stitching, so I'm kind of all over the place. So that's that one. I'm pretty happy with it. I like how that purple looks against the yellow. It's kind of an unusual tone of purple. So I'll keep that going. I better check out what, I think it's 3807, the DMC color for this. I need to get another one. I haven't been getting enough to last me the whole project. I've just been buying a skein at a time, so. Okay, so that again is 1 dozen Quakers, and I imagine it's not too late to join this stitch along. I mean, what stitch along? It's never too late to join any stitch along. But the Zooms are really fun if you're looking for some interaction, or just kind of, Zooms are nice because you don't have to chat. If you don't feel like chatting, you can just sit and listen. Or if you feel like telling a story, you can, and it's kind of nice. There's a nice, everybody sort of takes turns, if they feel like it, sharing something. And this pattern stitches up quicker than you would think. I don't think I'll be doing the numbers. I'm not so much of a sampler, alphabet, and number stitcher. If there's a quote or like a significant date, I would put it on there. But I think instead I'm going to take some of these, like these smaller medallions, and see if I can, like these little ones, and just plop them into those spots to fill in the space. Some of these little tiny medallions are 1/1. That's why they're so small. And these up here are 2/2. So that's kind of interesting. It creates like different dimensional thing happening. So, okay. So got some good work done on that. Okay, next up. Oh, I took out data portraits in Paris for Juneteenth. Which way does it go? This way. This is by Shaded Stitchery, and Shaded Stitchery, Nuri has been creating so many beautiful patterns, so many good ones. So this is a tribute to W.E.B. Du Bois, who created a poster series for the World's Fair in Paris to represent Black American life, just different facets of Black American life. So these are all graphs, basically, from those posters. And my only issue with this pattern is that every time I start a new motif, I fall down the rabbit hole of research because I keep trying to look up what the actual graph is that goes with each one. Like this one's going to be really interesting right here. I can't wait to look that up. It has like a green, it almost looks like a flag. It's got blue, red, and green. Anyway, each one has been very interesting to stitch on. and I'd like to look up what each one means too. So I'm enjoying this a lot, and I'm shockingly close to a finish. This, let's see, this line here is a little bit over the halfway mark. So it's really like about a third left here, not that much more. And each motif is really small. When you sit down with it for a day, you actually chip away at, at quite a bit of it because it's just these small bits. But some of them are full coverage, so it takes a little bit of time, like this one right here, this one up here. But anyway, I'm really enjoying that, and I want to keep that up. I think I'll keep this one out. Maybe I'll even work on it this will be my this week piece to stitch on. I want to take another book break, if it's okay with you, but I don't have a quote to read from this one, but I just have a book to recommend. So my library had like a Juneteenth shelf dedicated to like Black Celebration and Black Joy. So I pulled up this book, How to Live Free in a Dangerous World by Shelia Lawson. And they are an American travel writer. Basically, it's a travel memoir. I am loving it. I think it's so good because they've been everywhere, and it's just really interesting to hear, travel stories are good stories. You just meet different people who you wouldn't expect, and everybody kind of has realizations about what they think and how they see the world, and they write beautifully. So I can't recommend this enough. If you're looking for a very compelling read that I had to, so I've been taking notes on this. I thought it would just be a quick kind of easy, travel memoir, but I actually have so many ideas in here that I really want to chew on a little bit. So I have some index cards, and I've been taking notes so definitely going to keep that going. I took this with me to I went to my first silent reading party. Have you ever been to one, or do you know what they are? It sounds silly, but it was a very rejuvenating, empowering experience. You gather with you get invited to this silent reading party. This one was through my library, but it was in the back courtyard of a bar in the neighborhood. And there were about 30 people there, and everybody brings a book to read. And the first few minutes, you're kind of chatting a little bit with people. Like I brought Steve with me, so I was chatting with him, and we ran into one of my neighbors, so we were chatting with her for a bit. And I ran into someone from my library's stitching group, which I had just attended this week. So we ran into people. But anyway, if people want to, they can kind of go around the space and everybody can share what they're reading. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. And then you just spend 2 hours reading, like in companionship, but everybody's reading. And there's something about it that just feels very empowering. First of all, it's nice to be in a quiet space with other people, to share a quiet space and not be solitary in solitude, but to be amongst other people. And I don't know, I think it just feels empowering to know we're struggling with some things here in the US, in case you haven't noticed. So it's just nice to be in a space where everybody is engaged in learning and reading and getting new perspectives on stuff. That's a great feeling. So I really enjoy that, and I'll keep this going too. That was a good book pick. Okay, next up, I put some work into Bird Herd by the Hathaway Stitchers. So actually, this is in particular by Amity. I think she's Boomerang Stitches. Let me see if I have her on here. I forgot to add her to my notes. It's a group of birds, and the text says Bird Herd on it. And I enjoy their Flosstube channel. They're a silly bunch, and I often find myself laughing out loud at their videos. So I definitely am stitching this. It's another 1/1. This is on a mystery linen. I don't know what it is, but it's a nice kind of pale color. It's not raw natural. It has a little bit of tint to it, more kind of like a creamy beige sort of. And then I'm just using a random assortment of colors from Stash. I'm sort of picking my own colors as I go, but some of them kind of match. Like this brown, this is called for red, this is called for pink, not called for. It's charted as a red color, so I put in a red color, but it's not the called for color. So I'll just keep that going. It's just, it'll be are there 4 birds? I don't remember. I'll try to throw up pictures of some of the patterns I'm talking about, since I don't have print patterns, as I go along, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'll keep that going too. It looks pretty good, I think. And it's nice to have these smaller pieces. When I stitch over one, the pieces will be really small. So I'd like to be able to get the easiest frames to find at the thrift store are like smaller frames, like the 5x7 or 4x6. So it'll be good to have some smaller pieces stitched up. They'll just be easier and less expensive to frame. Okay, next up is I worked on my Palestinian Tetris piece. So I'll have to hold this back, I think. It's getting big. So here's what it looks like. And it's a mashup of several patterns by different, mostly Palestinian American stitchers, but not all. So this one up here, this whole top bit here, I haven't filled in most of it. This whole square here is going to be a pattern by Deco Elian. It's Palestinian stitches, and it's in the January 2023 World of Cross Stitching magazine. That's where you can find that pattern. Deco Elian is also on Etsy, and you can find tons of like gorgeous patterns that she has charted there. Up here, this is not by a Palestinian heritage stitcher, but this is by Hib Stitches, and this was a pattern where all the proceeds went to probably I think PCRF. It was one where you like donated and showed a receipt, and then you could get access to the pattern. This up here is by Tirazane Initiative, and it's Cypress Heart, I think is what it's. Cypress Pendant. This one coming in here is the one I worked on a lot this month. So this is Lena's Hanging Thobe. A thobe is like a large shirt dress, sort of. It usually has embroidery all along it. And, oh no, it's not Lena's Hanging Thobe. It's Lena's Hanging Design. So I think it's not a thobe piece, but it's like a wall decoration piece. But it could be on thobe, I guess. And so I filled in these diagonal bits coming in here. I finished a lot of that this month. And then I put a teeny tiny start into, because I think I'm going to fill in more. Hold on. So here's the piece. It's on the top half of some fabric. I'm going to keep bringing it down. So this month I added the tiniest ever little start right here. And this is on a Gaza tribute pattern, and it's by Min Amani Designs. So Lena from Lena's Thobe, the person who designed this pattern here, and then Amani from Min Amani Designs, who designed this, and like the rest, I'll have to throw in a picture of what the whole thing looks like. It'll fill in like this whole next band right here. They're the two who host Tetris Talk, the podcast. So they're easy. They're really easy to find. They're both in the U.S. I think one's on the East Coast, one's on the West Coast, maybe. I don't know for sure. Anyway, this pattern, all the proceeds are going to humanitarian aid in Gaza. So I'll list the name of the pattern below. And if you're interested, you can, you buy it directly from her. And then on the 1st of every month, she just sends the whole bucket of proceeds from that pattern to humanitarian aid, which is a really good way, by the way, for people to donate. Like if you've stitched someone else's culture or identity, and now you find like you want to donate those proceeds, that's a good way to do it. Just have like a set day of the month to donate. Probably not design the pattern in the first place for proceeds, but for your own proceeds. But if you're going to donate, if you're going to collect funds for something and want to donate it, that's probably a good way to do it. These are all just colors from Stash. The thing I'm doing though is I'm using the same color palette. Every time I add something new, I'm just keeping the same 4 colors. So the whole piece will be unified in the colors that are used, even though I'm bringing in lots of different patterns into that mix. Okay. Oh, I usually donate. When I stitch on something Palestinian, I've been donating. There's so many causes to donate to. My two from this month were again Ella Elna Elak, which is an organization that's providing water to lots of the camps in Gaza. They're bringing in like big trucks of water to places that haven't had water for like weeks and weeks. So they're able to help communities that way. And then the other organization is I've gotten a little bit more into Operation Olive Branch, which is basically organizing individual GoFundMes for families to try to help families leave Rafah. So I donated this time to Wesam's family, who's the cute, they have the sweetest kids. There's, what are the kids' names? There's Zane and Amira and Zane are just the sweetest little kids ever. I'm going to link their GoFundMe below if you just want to check them out. And I'll also put Wesam, their mom's, I think that's their mom's name, I'll put their Instagram page. I'll look for that and put it down. The kids are just the sweet, that just looks like the sweetest family. And so I gave a little bit to them as well. That one, so it just doesn't feel right to stitch on something and not also do something, whether you're learning or donating or showing up places or, something. I've been writing, I write to my reps. I mean, I think did we pass day 270, I think, since October 7th? And I pretty much write every day. There's a day a week when I miss, the day gets away from me, usually like a Friday or Saturday night, the day gets away from me, so I miss it. But every other day, I've written hundreds of communications to my reps. It's very discouraging. They don't get it. But I just keep going. What I usually share with them is what I'll read, like people's stories from Gaza, and then that's what I'll share with them. I'll say, I don't know if you knew about this, but there's this family, and I read about this, and did you know that this happened to them, or did you know that this is going on? And of course they know what's going on, but I want to put it in writing, and I want them to know that we know that you know what's going on, and you're not doing anything about it. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. Oh no, we're going to get right back into one more, because I stitched on a Ukrainian pattern as well. I don't know if you remember this one. Do you remember seeing that? It's been a long time since I pulled this out. So this is by 2x2 Stitch Art. And, 2x2 Stitch, I think it's Sampler 56. All of their patterns are like numbers. So it's not really, they don't have distinct names. It's hard to find their patterns in their Etsy shop. But this one I think is called Sampler 56. And I'm stitching it in colors of the Ukrainian flag. The designer is Ilana from 2x2 Stitch Art, and she's Ukrainian. I don't hear much from her. I know Katerina from Stitchy Princess Black. I got picked up another pattern. I pick up patterns from her pretty regularly too. She posts on Instagram about what she's going through over there, so you can kind of follow what's going on. This one I picked up this month because I picked up, book alert, I picked up this book, which is super fascinating, Diaries of War. And so what this is, I told myself, you got to read this. It's a quick read because it's basically like a graphic novel. It has text and beautiful illustrations inside. So I told myself, okay, get the book read and then do a little bit of stitching on your Ukrainian piece. But basically, Diaries of War, this is by Nora Krug. And I think she's a German writer. And she spent a whole year interviewing two people. And one person was a Ukrainian journalist who was on the front lines of the war. And the other person was a Russian artist who was anti-war. And so they don't know each other. None of them knew each other. I mean, this Nora Krug knew both of them, or met both of them, but didn't really know much about either of them before, but they didn't know each other. And so she did these weekly check-ins with them. And the text, like those messages that she got from them each week became this book. So for example, like here it says week 10, and so on every layout, on this side of the page, you're getting the Ukrainian journalist's story of what's going on that week. And on the facing page, you're getting the story of what the Russian artist, what's going through his mind and how he's dealing with living in a place that's waging war against someone when you don't want to be doing that. So each week it goes through the entire, it was 52 weeks, I think. And it's super fascinating to just see how they're dealing with life, both of them, and the the emotional conflicts, the struggles that they're going through. And everyone is kind of literally juxtaposed next one beside the other. And the illustrations are really beautiful. There's one, I should have flagged it. Bear with me a sec. I'm going to see if I can find it. There's a beautiful one where he's gone to a party, the Russian artist. Oh, it's this one here. So the Russian artist has gone to a party. He's trying to decide if he and his family should leave Russia and live somewhere else. So he's gone to France and he's trying to find work and establish a life there before bringing his family. But he misses them so much, being away from them. And he's at a party and there are families there. And so he just can't even, he talks about how he can't even really look at them. And it shows like he's looking out a window, but then he can see the reflection of this happy family in the window behind him. So there's just like very beautiful artwork in this book too. And very, it gave me a lot to think about. So definitely recommend on that one. And this one again was 2x2 stitch art. I haven't been telling you any of the fabric on anything. I keep forgetting. This one is Barnwood by Picture This Plus. This Palestinian piece is on Hot Chocolate by Bestitch Me. It's a neutral that I really like. And I probably forgot others. Let me know if you want to know what something is, and I can go back and look it up and tell you in the comments. Okay, can you believe we're still on whips and I haven't even shown you new starts yet or plans? Okay, I have this kit that I started, it's probably been a couple years ago now. It's by Clark, which may or may not have a connection with Penna charts. I'm not really sure. It's these chokeberries, which are actually a native plant around here too. I just haven't worked on it in ages because I think when I filmed my first whip parade, it's been a few years now, I misplaced this chart and the picture got separated. And I finally, when cleaning out this winter, I actually found the chart. So now I can work on it again. Let me think of which direction it's supposed to. I think it faces this way. It's very pretty. It's just like a tiny full coverage piece, basically. And the colors are so similar. I took it to my library has a stitching group once a month. So I was there this week. And so I thought, well, let me just take this over there. And I think I'm going to need to make, I was just working off the chart, but I need to make a working copy and actually highlight what I've done because it's too hard to tell. The colors are too similar. I can't tell what I've already done and what still needs to be done. But it looks pretty and it's very possible to finish this year if I can get my organization down a little bit. So it's on a piece of apricot by Color and Cotton. It's washed out a bit on screen, but it's kind of a peachy color. So it carries some of these like orangey tones, just a much paler version of that. So that's that. And did I have anything else to say? No, nothing else about that. Okay. Did I forget anything I wanted to say? The 1 dozen Quakers, the hashtag is Bake Me a Quaker Sal. I'll list all those Sal info down below. Okay. New starts. I start everything all the time. It's just what I do. So first up, I got a teeny tiny start to Pocketbook Peacocks. And this is by Michelle Bendy Stitchy. And that's just real cute, I thought, those little birds there. And I like all the bright color, the kind of vivid colors on it. It's inspired by an antique needlepoint purse, a design on an antique needlepoint purse that's in Michelle's collection. So, remember that piece of 28 count witch elt that has like everything on it? It's got all this stuff on it. That's where I started it. So it looks like this so far. And it's just one face. I'm gonna have to do something about it. This, I'll have to change the colors a bit, I think. This like wispy bit that comes out of the flower, the light color there is, I matched it to the picture, but it ends up being too light for this fabric, I think. You can sort of see it, but I want something with a little bit more definition. So I'll switch that out a bit. I'm using all colors from Stash, and I'm trying to match what they look like in the picture. So for the most part, it looks similar, but a couple things I'll have to change. Okay, so that again is Pocketbook Peacocks, and it's by Michelle Benby Stitchy. Okay, next up, I'm going to show you, this was supposed to be part of Queued Up Sal. Remember that whole thing I started last year where I told myself I was going to finish a current whip before starting a new one by just keep it queued up and get excited about it being queued up so I'd use that energy to finish a current whip? Well, that doesn't ever happen. I keep starting new projects. So this was supposed to be the project I started after Sky Dragon that I'm stitching along with Anita from, she's the Violet Stitcher, and I just went ahead and started it. It's Water Dragon by Ingleside Imaginarium. It's a dragon. It's a huge dragon, and I picked this up at Bestitch Me during I made a couple of visits to Bestitch Me last year, so this is during that one of those visits. And I had picked out a fabric at Bestitch Me as well, and I just thought, you know what, I'm starting this because I'm excited about it. So here it is. So this is Devil's Claw, the fabric from Bestitch Me. It's a 36 count linen, and I'm using colors from Stash. So it's not quite identical. It's a little bit lighter in color to the original one. Here's the original one. See, it's a bit darker, but I'm making it a little bit lighter, which I think still looks okay. You can still see it. And I'm using, the called for color is 3808, which I have a cone. I have a small cone of 3808, so I have plenty of that. This color for like these lines, for example, the teal colored lines. It's just all this fill-in. I went with a different color for that. So that's fun. I'm enjoying that one a lot. It stitches up really fast because in this section, so like in this tail section, there are really only like 3 colors in there. There's not much, you don't have to change colors that frequently, so it's these really big blocks of color. And then same in the gray area, there are really only 2 or 3 grays there. So it will be really easy to stitch those up. I think I'm going to try beading for the first time on this project too. There's some like texture, there's beaded texture all along here. And there is some cry neck here for the chest, which I'm going to ask. Miriam's kind of my expert on metallic thread, so I'm going to ask what she recommends for that. She'll probably say Petite Treasure braid, use some beeswax on it. I'm going to double check with her. So anyway, started that one, and I'm enjoying it. I kind of want to, so Julie, Sarah, Miriam, and I are getting together at the end of July, and we're going to stop at Bestitch Me. I don't really need anything. Let's not go into that. But I thought it would be fun to take this with like a little bit of progress on it since it's one of their fabrics and actually show them like a piece that I'm stitching on their fabric. I thought that might be kind of fun. So that was sort of my idea in starting this off at this particular time. Okay. Next up, you know what? I have to grab a photo. I'll be right back. Okay, so that stash sale that Miriam and I attended from that guild member who had passed away, this was one of the kits that I picked up from there. And it's for this pattern by You and I Friends. You and I Friends. And it's just called Corn. And it's got this big corn on the cob. And I just thought, you know what? I love how like bold it is, those thick lines. I'm going to stitch on this. And I want to make it a tribute to some of the First Nations peoples who lived here and grew corn. So I am making it a tribute to Potawatomi. One of the groups that lived here was Potawatomi. And I looked up how to say corn in Potawatomi. And it's Madamin or Madaminek. So I'm going to be stitching this corn. I actually started a teeny tiny bit of it here. You can see some at the top of the cob and some little kernels. And then either along the side, probably not along the side, that might be too hard to do. Maybe on the bottom, I'm going to stitch the word Mdamenek or Mdamen and make that kind of my First Nations tribute to corn. So there it is. So this is on a piece of fabric from Jessie at Mislaid Pages, and it sort of blends it. The colors sort of blend in. So I think it'll be really striking when the hue, because this will all be stitched in, right? Like this whole, where did it go? Like this is all full coverage here. So this whole thing will be stitched in. So it will kind of create this patch on top of this fabric, which I think should be really nice. So we'll see how that one goes. I just picked a few colors from Stash, and I'm going to try to make some. I was researching the types of corn that were grown in this part of the Midwest, and there were a lot of types of corn that had different color kernels. So like orangey reds, blues, and even white kernels, not just the yellow that we think about. So I want to see if I can incorporate that into this as well. I picked out a couple of different tones to make the kernels, so we'll try that too. So the pattern is by You and I Friends. They're from Colorado. It looks like. I don't know much about this brand or this designer, but I thought that was cute. Okay, next one. I did start more. I started more. Okay, so this one I didn't start this month, but I'm going to take it out because you haven't seen it in a while. It's the Weaver's Bird Sampler. Not the Weaver. There's a Weaver's Band Sampler, I think, with like a whole bunch of animals in it. This one has birds in it. So I think it's based on like medieval. Well, here's the deal. I think it's based on medieval European textiles, like animal motifs. But do you know what? I saw a Palestinian stitcher on Instagram who stitched an animal motif that had this sort of thing. It's where like the animals all have these like spots stitched into it. So there's like negative stitching within the animal. So see how here there's like bits that are left unstitched? That sort of thing. I saw that in a Palestinian stitch. So I'm just kind of wondering if it's one of those, like a lot of sampler motifs, for example, like stars and birds come from Palestinian and like Syrian embroidery. So I'm just wondering if this is these sorts of motifs traveled as well. I don't have any background on that. I'm just wondering. It's a curiosity. So this Weaver's Band Sampler I've stopped working on because I can't find my floss for this. It's a sulky. I have it in my record. I have it in my journal, which color I'm using, but I cannot find the actual spools. I know exactly what I've done because it's the thing I do too many times. When I'm traveling somewhere to stitch on it, I combine multiple projects into like one travel bag, and then those all get scattered around somewhere. So I have to find it somewhere. I have to find it. What I've done though is I've started another pattern which looks a lot like it. So this one, let me see who this is. It's called Menagerie, a Garden of Whimsical Beasties. Menagerie, a Garden of Whimsical Beasties. And it's like imagine this animal in a grid. There are like 3 on the top and like 4 going down. So there's like a grid of 12 different animals, let's say. And they're each in kind of a box like this. And some of them kind of, like this is an elephant's trunk. The elephant is here, but his trunk kind of reaches into another one. So some of them kind of overlap with other sections. That's kind of cool looking. I don't know what this fabric is. I think it's a picture of this plus, but it could be a Stitch Me, I'm not sure. And I'm using DMC 300, I think is the color. Nope. It's Cosmo 2311. Cosmo 2311, and this is Cosmo 895 is coming in on that one. So I have a few, like I've picked out some of the darker tones of Cosmo that I have and just kept them in this project bag because I'm thinking about having most of it be in this color, but then kind of picking a few of the animals to be in like a different color. So this is fun to stitch. It's been really fun to stitch and really easy because it's on Aida. I enjoy all my projects, so it'll be fun to get back to that one, just like with so many other ones. Okay, this one is one I've been waiting to stitch on for a long time, and then Dee suggested to start it this week. They're going through some of their surgery. The top surgery is happening this week, or happened, I think, this week. So a bunch of people have been keeping him company with stitching on Thurza Goes Goth by Kansas City Girl in a Colorado World. I'm gonna have to put up a picture of this one because all I have to show you is a border. So not much has happened yet. It's on a piece of 28 count Murky by Picture This Plus, and I'm stitching it 1/1. So the stitches will be tiny. It's very, very colorful. It's a sampler that has just like shocking pink and blue and green colors all over it. And I'm curious to see how it will turn out 1/1 by using all those colors 1/1. I mean, I think the border shows up pretty well. I'm using colors from Stash, so there will be some substitutions if I need to. But for the most part, I'm going to keep whatever colors I have in Stash that match or are called for. I'm going to try to use because I think there are like 30 different colors or something. There's a lot of colors in that one. There are a lot of color changes. So, okay, I have one more stitched piece to show you, and then we can talk about plans. Okay, so my friend Melanie, who I've mentioned before, she just wrote the Illinois edition of, it's like the 100 Places to See Before You Die. It's like a travel series with like picks on where to travel. And they have a citywide series, and they just started doing their statewide series. So Melanie wrote the one for Illinois. So she's super knowledgeable. She basically spent pandemic and then the years following that just traveling to every corner of Illinois and visiting places, checking out what she wanted to include in her book. And so that's what we do. So we just hop in the car and we go places. So she actually said, hey, I want to visit Frank Lloyd Wright. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a very well-known American architect. He is credited with starting the Prairie School of Design, which is where the lines in architecture kind of mimic lines in nature. So they're like, you'd see wide, flat, lots of long flat lines to mimic the prairie. A lot of incorporation of nature motifs and things like that. It was really Louis Sullivan who was kind of instrumental in getting that going, but Frank Lloyd Wright was not a humble person, I think. He took credit for a lot of things that maybe he should have really shared credit for. But anyway, his home and studio are not far from where I live. So Melanie said, well, let's go check it. It's been years since I've seen that one. Let's go check it out. Okay, so we went. You go on a little tour of his house and studio. It's really beautiful. And I thought, wait a second, I think I have a pattern that's something related to this. And sure enough, at the Guild retreat back in March, they did a stash sale there where patterns were like $1. I picked up this little thing. So it's the dining room ceiling grill. So in his dining room, you have the table, and exactly the same size as the table, there was a cutout in the ceiling, and then this beautiful wood carving, and then like a frosted glass pane, so that the light would shine through this. And it basically mimicked the same. It was kind of an echo of that shape was in the table as well. And so I thought, well, this is great. I'm going to stitch this for Mel. I'll try to make it maybe a little pillow or something. And it can be like a little souvenir from our visit. So this came in so handy. I actually was going to stitch it for Steve because he's a big architecture fan. I probably still will. It's a quick stitch. Here's what I just put in like a couple hours into it. And here's what I've got so far. It's coming along pretty quick. So this is on a 40 count feldspar by Picture This Plus. And I'm just using black DMC on it. So this is hold up the picture. So we're doing like the top part of the grill right here. And that's coming in like the top part of this star motif is what's coming in here. So it'll be really tiny. And this is the halfway point. So it'll really just go out to like about here. Less than that, about here. So that's been fun. I'll definitely go back to that one. I'm enjoying it, and I want to try. I have so much gift stitching I want to do this month, so this will be on that list. I'll try to chip away at some of my gift stitching too. Okay, plans. Monarch watch Sal. Join Amy and I, and in garden chat today I'll show you some actual bits in the garden related to this Sal too. There are so many great patterns with monarchs, and actually let's do a Stitchy Kindness shout out too. Amy sent me she made for me a beautiful project bag with monarchs on it. All these bright, vibrant colors, I just love it. And then Amy also makes resin jewelry using, in the jewelry she puts milkweed, which is the plant that, monarchs live on. So she, as the pull here, zipper pull, she sent me one of her little jewels, a charm and then a jewel, and that has actual milkweed in it. And then she also sent me another piece of the jewelry with a pendant on it. It's in this bag, but now all my stuff, here we go. I have everything kitted up in there. This is very pretty. Same thing, like a resin jewel. It has a little bit of milkweed, that bit of milkweed in it. So nice, Amy. Thank you so much for this. These are beautiful. That was so nice to receive. So generous. I really appreciate, I know we all crafters, we appreciate gifts from each other because we know how much work goes into it. I'm always in awe. I know those of you who stitch and quilt think, oh, this, I don't know if you think it's a big deal. I think these bags are a big deal. Because I don't sew, so I know it definitely takes effort to line up fabrics and measure things out, and the zipper seems so, and put a lining in it, and there's a very pretty monarch fabric as the lining. Look at that, beautiful. So I appreciate this, Amy. Thank you, and I'm excited to do this Sal with Amy too. Let's talk about some patterns. So this is a possibility. This is by Dirty Annie's, and it's Monarch. That's a really nice one. The quote in it says, "Just when the caterpillar thought her life was over, she began to fly." This one looks like a quick one. The butterfly will take a little bit of time, but everything else looks like it'll be pretty quick. I actually have one in stash that I want to start. So it's by the Blackberry Rabbit, and it's called Butterfly Bliss. And it has these little guys in there. And my idea is just to do like a small, I like the whole thing, but the fabric I picked out is a smaller piece of fabric. So I thought maybe I would just do like this, like one kind of diamond part of it here to get a sense of all the motifs. And then I can use the kind of fabric I had, the piece that I have, I can use that with. That's very pretty. I have to look for my color. I'm trying as much as possible to use colors from stash, so I have to poke around a little bit and see what I can find for that. Okay, then this one I think a lot of people have seen. It's Wings of Change by Silver Creek Samplers. And this, I have a blue, I think it's the rest of that scrap of chinchilla that I have. That should work well for this. It's but from Mystic Fabrics, 18 count chinchilla. This is nice because it has the butterfly, and then it also has the caterpillar. This is what the caterpillar looks like, and the different larval stages. And this is what the milkweed plant looks like too. I have a different variety. I have a swamp milkweed, so mine looks a bit different. Amy said I think she's got butterfly weed, which is another variety too. There are lots of varieties of milkweed, so that's an idea. And then the others I think I'm going to have to put up pictures of. But another possibility is Yasmin's Made with Love has a beautiful Monarch Quaker. That's kind of a cool one because like the butterfly is all stitched in, but then there are Quaker motifs all around. There are Mill Hill Monarchs. Carolyn Manning has two. I think Amy's doing a butterfly weed one. And Carolyn Manning, I think, also has one called Monarch. Like Chokeberry Rabbit we talked about. Bug Gal Designs on Etsy. Bug Gal Designs has one called Monarch Stages on there. I'll see if I can grab a pic of that. Pigeon Coop Designs has a Monarch. There's a designer called Cherry Parker on Etsy. It has one called the Monarch Butterfly. And then Stitch Sprout has one called Monarch Heart Frame. So there's some variety there, and I'm sure you'll come across some as well. Feel free to share those in the comments. And join us on Monarch Watch Sal. And if you have any time at all, look into monarchs too. Like, do they pass through your area where you live? Or do you have another butterfly variety that passes through your area that's, you know, struggling in the ecosystems as they are right now? Is there anything you can do to help? That would be good to check, you know, a little bit of activity, you know, learning and activity with this too. That'd be good. And then my last plan, and then I'm gonna pause here and do some garden chat. In August, so this is not this month, next month, a number of us, Jerica, Daybreak Stitcher, and Julie, and Miriam, we're all celebrating Sarah, our friend Sarah, who is Mod Cross Designs. She's got a big month in August. She's got new releases coming out. She's going to try her first, oh gosh, Needlework Expo, I think. Is that the one that comes up in August? And both Sarah and Miriam had patterns in this Just Cross Stitch magazine. I want to show you Sarah's. Let me see if I can find it. This is Miriam's. And it's Spooky Skyline. And it looks like this. It's a hot air balloon, and this kitty is floating around there. Little, these candy corns hanging here, and for the waifs, and then the city skyline, some things floating around in the sky. It's very cute. So I'll be looking for fabric for this in my stash and kitting it up. And when I see everybody at the end of July, I think we're going to start on this one. That looks fun. So Sarah's got a big month coming up in August, and so be on the lookout for some new designs and also existing designs from Sarah too, to start on to help celebrate a budding designer. That'd be a nice thing to do. Okay, let me pause here and we'll do a real quick, I'm about 20 minutes over. I wanted to finish at exactly an hour to switch to garden chat. If you are not into the garden chat, have a good July. I hope July is good to you, and I hope to check in again at the end of July. If you want to stick around here and keep stitching, if you're stitching or doing whatever you're doing, I'll just show you some couple pictures from the garden and we'll talk about plants for a little bit. Okay, be right back. Okay, so I haven't checked in with you on my garden in a while, but this is kind of a peak time for gardening. There's a lot going on. I'm also kind of hesitant, to be quite honest, I'm hesitant going on and on about my garden because I just feel like I spend so much time reading about Palestine, and so much of it is about land that part of me feels kind of guilty going on and on about land. And but maybe it's a good thing that I hope there's something I can share that can change your mind on how you think about how we use land and how we use gardens. And I come to this very humbly. We're really lucky, Steve, my partner, and I, we're fortunate that the circumstances have created a situation where we have a little patch of land that we can garden on. And we know how hard it is. Not everybody has that. It's not hard work. It's circumstance and privilege that create that. And so I hope that for as long as we have access to this, that we can do the best we can. We can, you know, be good stewards of the land that we're living on, and do something good for the nature that we share that land with. Hey everyone, I had to switch locations here. Okay, back to garden chat. So, what was I saying? Well, the main thing I wanted to talk about is kind of tell you a little bit about our efforts in removing our lawn, why we do it, and how we choose some of the plants that we're putting in place of the patches of lawn that we're removing. So I'll show you a picture. This first picture is of a goldenrod. It's got these long stems. They're about 4 or 5 feet long, almost like taller than me. And goldenrod here is a native plant. So it would have been a plant, you know, prior to the arrival of Europeans. It would have been a plant that grew in this area. And it's considered a keystone plant here. So you can look up, actually, I think it'd be really interesting for you to look up keystone plants in your area. Keystone plants are like, if you had to take the entire possibility of plant, the group of plants that grow in your area, all the flora that grow in your area, and if you had to narrow down that list of plants to like the 4 or 5 plants that support the greatest amount of biodiversity, those are your keystone plants. Like, which are the 4 or 5 plants that really pack the biggest punch when it comes to supporting wildlife? And goldenrod is one of them for here. And that we just had one stem of it last year. See, there's all these stems in the photo, but we just had one stem when we got it as a little pint last year, a $5 pint from a spot called Possibility Place, which only sells native plants. So basically they find seeds that are out in the wild that are growing, that, you know, have been documented to have been pre-colonial, and they propagate them and then sell those plants at a very affordable rate so that we can grow them and propagate them and share seeds and all that. They're not genetically engineered or special cultivars or anything like that, that are, you know, created just for sales. They're truly native plants. Okay, next up, next to that, to the right of that, is these kind of tall spiky plants. That's a liatris, or a blazing star. And those are from some bulbs that I surprisingly got at our big box, like hardware and garden center store. They almost never carry native plants, but they had these bulbs and they were 50% off. So I said, okay, we're going to give them a try. And I love liatris. Those tall spikes, you're starting to see, they have these like little hot dog shaped parts at the top, and those are going to be covered with purple flowers. I'll actually show you a little. I have another patch of them behind this patch, or on the other side of the garden, and those are starting to flower, so I'll put a picture of those in. Down, I'll throw in a picture too, like kind of below the goldenrod, there was a little empty patch, and last year I had put some calendula in there. Now, calendula is not a native plant. I picked up my first seeds of calendula right here at a local market. The local Chamber of Commerce had put together little seed packets, and they were handing them out for free. So I just came home and planted those kind of in different spots, and now they just kind of, they're not plants that would normally grow in this area and survive the winters here and come back year to year. They're not perennial, but they self-seed. So when the flowers are spent, they produce seed, and then those drop down, and we just kind of have a regular supply of calendula that comes up every year. So I put down a few more seeds, actually. The tallest one here is the one that self-seeded, seeded itself from last year. And then the shorter ones are seeds that I planted this year, so they're taking a little bit longer to come up. I think calendula might be native to Europe. It's not a plant that's native to here. I need to look that up. Okay, around the back, just behind the goldenrod, there's this really pretty leafy plant down here with variegated leaves, and that's a Jacob's ladder, or a polemonium, and that's actually native to here. Well, this particular variety is not native, not the native variety that usually has just solid green leaves. This one's a special cultivar, so what gardeners will do if they want to sell plants to make a profit is they'll specially engineer certain characteristics in plants and then sell those at a higher cost, knowing that they're visually more interesting, or they have qualities that gardeners might find appealing. So on this polemonium, it's bred to have these variegated leaves that are very attractive. So it will come back from year to year, and it's kind of a slow spreader. It has these really pretty, I'll throw in a different picture here of when it bloomed in the spring. It has these pretty purple flowers on it. And I think going forward, though, I want to try to support like more native varieties, like truly native varieties, but this has been nice to have in the garden in the meantime. A lot of those, like the special cultivars, are bred so that because they become kind of commercialized, so a lot of them are bred to not produce seeds that can produce new plants. They want you to keep buying from the uh, manufacturer. So like we have some red coneflowers in the front yard that we got on like a 75% clearance from our local garden center, and they're beautiful, but they're natural coneflowers are purple, and those have been engineered to have a different color. And even I remember on the label it even said like, please don't propagate these seeds, but anyway you can't. They don't the seeds fall down and we never get new plants from them anyway. They're bred to not do that. Okay, now there's a contraption here under gauze. This right next to the liatris, the blazing stars, and that's our container of dill. So I dumped a whole packet of dill seeds in that container this year because I wanted to make an effort, because we've been doing so well with the sustaining monarchs and raising monarchs. I wanted to see if I could do the same with swallowtail butterflies. And they feed on dill, although I was watching Lisa Loves Plants is a really great gardening video series if you want to diversify what you're watching when you stitch. And it's Lisa Loves Plants. She's a gardener in Michigan, and Michigan is close enough to us. We have some similar native plants, but in our area. And she also really advocates for removing lawn and replacing it with native plants. I love her. One of the things she said in her video was, a recent video is, how did she phrase it? It was something like, when you remove lawn and, plant with native plants, you're kind of returning the land to its original state, to what it's meant to be, to what it was always meant to be, instead of having grass on it, which doesn't do anything for anybody in these ecosystems. So I learned from Lisa Loves Plants, that swallowtails actually have a native plant that they live on and feed off of, and that's a golden Alexander. So I got a couple of those at a farmer's market. It's really in my area. It's really easy to find native plants. Now, if you want to transform your garden to native gardens, you can find them everywhere. I've gotten pints at the farmer's market. I've gotten pints at like smaller garden centers. I've gotten pints. I got like $3 pints at that farmer's market. There was a school nearby whose parent-teacher organization did a fundraiser sale, and they were selling pints. So I feel like there's a movement going on around here, so it's very easy to find native plants here. So golden Alexanders were easy to find. So hopefully we'll get some swallowtails on there. The plant that was native to here that they hopefully will enjoy. But swallowtails are attracted to dill and to carrots as well. And I didn't know about the carrots. That I've been observing that the swallowtails are laying eggs on the carrot leaves and feeding off of them, which is, they're conveniently placed right next to the dill here. That wasn't planned. So about when the dill plants got just a few inches high, I noticed the first swallowtail butterfly kind of flitting around. It was really kind of frenetically flying around. I think it was laying eggs all over. And I didn't get a picture of it in time, but I have a mental picture of it. And then sure enough, the eggs started hatching and we had caterpillars. And that first batch of caterpillars, we didn't have any gauze. We didn't have the system set up here. So as the caterpillars got bigger, we have birds in our tree, in our magnolia tree. A robin family was there, and then some smaller like sparrow kind of birds. They just had a feast on the first batch of swallowtail caterpillars. So, which is fine. That's what, birds need food also. This is part of circle of life, right? But then when the next swallowtail laid eggs, we thought, oh, well, let's see if we can get some of these to their adult lives. So we put this gauze around, and it's propped up on some bamboo sticks. And so, insect alert, if you don't like to look at insects, I'm going to put up a picture here in just a moment of a couple of our swallowtail caterpillars who've been munching away in there. And we had our largest one, I think, has left to go make his chrysalis somewhere. So we'll see. I don't know what will happen with that. We haven't spotted the chrysalis anywhere. We just knew it had gotten pretty much to its full size, and it was kind of heading towards the edge of the container, so we figured it was making its move. So hopefully it's safe somewhere. Okay, let's talk about those carrots. So we don't have a whole lot of food that we grow here. That's something I want to work on. I'm learning more and more about which spaces. We have very minimal sun in the garden, so you need full sun to grow food. So trying to find which patches get the most sun during the day and trying to plop down some vegetable containers there. We have to grow, okay, so in our area, there's been so much development in our area for so long. And our house is from the 1930s. At that time, people were using lead-based materials. So some of that lead could have seeped into the soil. We can do a soil test to find out if our soil has lead, but we haven't done that. So any food that I'm growing, I'm putting into containers. That way I can, get soil that I know is lead-free and, grow in there. So we've got these like fingerling variety carrots. Hang on, I'm gonna see if I can grab the packet and show you what the seed packet looks like. Okay, so we're growing these new Kuroda variety carrots. See how short they are? Trying to see if it will tell me how big they'll get. It doesn't say, but they look pretty short. I think they're about 3 to 4 inches at most. So you're gonna be short little ones. And so they're in a container. They're in like a storage tote. And Steve kind of knocked some holes. Our drill isn't working, but he knocked some holes into the bottom for drainage. And so that's a nice big container. And it's about 1.5 feet deep. So it's plenty of room. We didn't know what variety of carrots we were going to be growing in there, so we had plenty of room. I could have done regular carrots, I think, but we're trying these little ones. And I watched lots of garden videos on what to do to plant carrots and be successful with that. And I can give you some tips on that if you want to get started on your own container. Actually, a lot of gardeners will even just grow them in, like, they have these grow bags. They basically look like market tote bags with a wide bottom on them, and people will grow carrots in those things. So if you don't have a lot of space, don't think that you won't be able to grow something. You totally can. Lots of people do that. I got a book to show you related to this too. So I've been reading this one, We Are the Ark, and it's by Mary Reynolds. And ARK is an acronym. It stands for Acts of Restorative Kindness. And Mary Reynolds is from Ireland, and she advocates. She's got this whole initiative going on, and you can join it and then get yourself added to like a global map, so you can see everybody around the world who's doing this. She advocates for folks to, if you're lucky enough to have some land that you're taking care of, kind of do a half and half thing. So have half of it returned to native plants and just wildness, return it to the animals and flora and fauna, and half of it to grow food on, to live off of. So she mentions lots of really cool things in here. So working my way through that, picking up some interesting ideas there. We definitely don't have enough food. We're not growing enough food to like sustain ourselves. Everything is kind of experimental, but we're trying. Every year we're adding something. The carrots are new this year. We have some jalapeno peppers in a pot. I'll put that picture up. It's these early jalapenos. So we're trying some of those. All this stuff I grew from seed. I think most people who do vegetables get starter plants. Instead of starting them from seed, you get them already kind of grown, like when people do tomatoes and stuff like that. So that's an easy, you don't have to start from seed and worry about the tiny seedlings. You can wait until they're stable, and get them that way. Okay, so I'll throw in a picture of my little frog friend in the garden, and I put in some marigolds around him. The little pots here, we've got a couple pots with zinnias. I just love zinnias. They're not native, but the monarchs and the bees love them. They're always, we've always drawn monarchs to those things, so I keep them around. Although I have kind of a mixed, I'm not sure what to do about the non-native plants here, because I was reading an article recently where they were talking about how it can be distracting to pollinators if you plant these very showy, beautiful zinnias. Have beautiful blooms on them. I'll see if I can find a picture from last summer and throwing something there. If you have distracting, beautiful plants, then the pollinators are drawn to those plants and not to the native plants, and so then the native plants don't get, the attention they need to themselves go through their life cycle and produce seed and all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking on that. I love having stuff for the monarchs and bees, though. They love those zinnias. Do you know I started planting zinnias inspired by Denise Black Ribbon Stitch Studio? Because she was talking about how she grows zinnias with her granddaughter, and I just remember thinking, oh, if kids could do this, surely I can do this too. And now zinnias we've had in the garden, and they're so easy to, when they go to seed, it's really easy to collect the seeds and then grow more. So that's been fun. So thank you, Denise, for that inspiration. Okay, next to the carrots, all these kind of huge patch of green here is going to be New England asters. They're called New England asters, but they're pretty much, you can find them almost everywhere in like from the Northeast all the way through the Midwest, and even a little bit of the South and West. And this, I'll have to throw up a picture from last year. In like late August and September, it's just covered with purple flowers. The bees love that. There are lots of types of asters. These asters are different from, I'll see if, I don't think I have a picture. There's a really beautiful variety of aster that grows in the woods here. And like along the roadsides, and it's more of a it's less leafy. It just has like sticks, so it looks like almost dried sticks, but then it has these beautiful periwinkle flowers all over it. So it's really interesting. There's so many different types of asters. Those grow really tall as well, so I don't know if I'd have a place. I have to think about where I would, if I got some, where would I put them. But it's really, native plants here are really interesting to learn more about. And also just thinking about, I haven't done the research yet to find like, what was this particular patch of land, like this area, what ecosystem was it before it all got developed on? Because in Illinois we have kind of three major ecosystems. So we've got woodland, we've got prairie, so totally open to the sun, prairie, and then we've got marshes, like very wet climate. So I don't know what this was exactly. I'll have to do some research on that. But I've kind of been treating our patches of our garden as like mini ecosystems. So like the parts that are in full sun, I've been treating them like prairie and trying to like limit those spots to either vegetables that need full sun or like prairie plants that need full sun. So I've got like some Rudbeckia growing in that patch. The variety that I got needs full sun. And then for the parts that are in like pretty much in shade the whole time, I've been treating those parts of the garden as woodland. So I've been researching plants that do well in shade, that most likely grew under the canopy of trees and can do well when they don't get much sun during the day. So, and we don't have any areas that are marshy in our garden. We don't have any areas where like when it rains really hard, it just kind of pools and stays there. But if we did, we'd have plants, I'd be researching plants that come from that ecosystem. So it's pretty interesting to learn about native plants. I was listening to, ooh, Steve dropped something up there. I was listening to one of my garden podcasts that I enjoy. It's called Let's Argue About Plants. And it's two of the editors from Fine Gardening magazine, and they have all sorts of interesting topics they talk about. But recently they did an interview with a landscape gardener from the Pacific Northwest, and she was talking about native gardening there. And it's totally different. Like the plant that would have been mostly covering that land before it was colonized and developed on would have been Douglas fir trees. And so she said when she has families and she's consulting with them on plants, if they want native plants, it's like, well, you can't really do like a single Douglas fir tree near a house, because the point of Douglas fir trees is that they develop a community system amongst themselves. Like they use each other for support, and their root systems are kind of tied in together or something. So if you have just one, it's more likely to like fall. So she said that the climate in the Pacific Northwest is similar to like the Mediterranean climate and climate in South Africa. There are certain patches all over the world that share a similar climate. So she recommends that people plant plants that grow in those areas. So I thought that was kind of interesting. She said in the lack of a bit, like you can't live in a developed home and also have like a true forest around you when you have like neighbors next to you, like the houses are close to one another. So she said that that's how she couldn't recommend native plants, but she could recommend plants that grow in similar ecosystems. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, down, I'll show you another picture here. Down next to the asters, I've got some salvia that is started from seed. It's got these purple flowers that supposedly pollinators really love, but I haven't really seen them going crazy on this. It's not native, so I probably won't grow any more of this from seed. Where did I read that it was? I think it's native to Europe and actually south, like Central America, like Mexico and Central America. So I'll probably pass those seeds along. Not sure what to do with those, but I probably won't grow any more of that. And then I'll take you over to the other side here. Oh no, these little pink flowers. Got some little pink flowers that are growing in kind of amongst the New England asters. Those are I just sprinkled a wildflower mix in here just to see if anything would come up. And I have one of the beds right behind me too. I've sprinkled. I'll throw a picture of that. What's come up is some blue forget-me-nots and some white candy tuft. And the pink flowers are Yorkias. Gardeners might identify those under their old name, which are Clarkias. That's a plant. The Yorkias are going through a naming decolonization process. So they used to be called, let me think of it. They used to be called Clarkias after Clark, like from Lewis and Clark. But in recent times, they've been renamed for York, who is a member of that traveling party, and who is the only black member of their traveling crew. And so he was someone who actually helped that traveling group identify plants. So they decided to name the plant after him instead of after, the colonizer who knew nothing about those plants. So that's kind of interesting to read about. I think it's like the same thing. I don't know if everyone remembers. I wrote it down. Hold on. There was, the poinsettia went through a decolonization process. Remember that? There were a lot of posts on social media about it, how it's more and more people are referring to it through its indigenous name. I think it's a Nahuatl name. It's Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is the actual name, like what indigenous peoples called it. So that's another thing I'm trying to do is, for all the native plants that grew here, I'm trying to do some research on what the local indigenous groups might have called those plants. It's really hard to find that information. But there's an indigenous anarchist decolonization zine that talks a little bit. I'll see if I can find a link to it. It talks about learning about native, like local flora and fauna names of native plants, but I don't remember if that's from my area. And then the National Park Service has like a teeny tiny article about like First Nations names for plants, but it's like plants from all over the U.S. and not necessarily from here. And it's very few plants that they talk about. What else can I show you? I'll throw in a picture of my Heliopsis. It's a false sunflower. It's got these beautiful orangey yellow petals. That also was like a $5 native plant pint. It had just one sad stem on it last year that was always leaning over, even though it did flower last year, but it came up much stronger and happier. I should show you the picture. I'll I'll throw in a picture here of, there's a really cool illustration. It's from the Conservation Research Institute, and it shows root systems. Like, it's not, plants are not just about what they do above ground, what they do underground is really important too. So it'll be tricky to see because it's not super clear image, but on the far left, it's really tiny, but you'll see like grass, basically what we use for our lawns. The root system for it is almost non-existent. It's like 2 inches. It's not doing anything underground. But all the rest of the plants are native plants, and you can see how deep their root systems go. And that's so important because the roots basically hold soil in place. So that's how you avoid erosion. You avoid dirt kind of blowing away or getting washed away in the rain. The plants hold it in place. And also all those roots, those deep root systems, take in water. So it's really good to have that. Like our sewer systems here, because we have such high populations, our sewer systems get overwhelmed when it rains, when there are heavy rains. So you need, the more of these plants you can plant, they actually take away some of the water from the burden to those systems, and then they use it to produce something above ground that's really beneficial to the environment. So, do I have anything else? Oh, I have to pop in a picture of the milkweed. So Amy and I are doing Monarch watch sale, and I'll show you my patch of milkweed. This is mostly swamp milkweed, and we haven't seen any Monarch activity yet, but usually it's around like this time, the first week of July, when we start spotting our first eggs on here. So we'll be on the lookout. It's just starting to bloom, and it has really pretty, it smells really nice. It has these pretty pink flowers on it. And the patch all along next to it, I have some nasturtium planted below. I'll throw in a little bloom, nasturtium bloom picture. I'm kind of I wanted to plant something in front of the milkweed because in the past, I think the birds have hopped up there and gotten at the caterpillars. So I thought, well, I'd put in a plant line of defense. So I have some marigolds and nasturtium down there. And then next to this patch, I have a whole nother patch growing. I threw a whole bunch of milkweed seeds down, also some of them self-seeded from this plant. So those, I'll keep some of them, and then I'll share some of them with people who want to plant their own milkweed. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, as you can see, I'll kind of throw in a before and after picture. I'll throw in a before picture. This is what the lawn looked like, this backyard. This is what it looked like when we moved in. You can kind of see the empty beds. They just had like mulch in them and nothing was growing in them. They're not true beds. They don't have a bottom. They're just a frame. I think it's really just created for visual interest. It's not a true like container. But those 3 beds on the right side, now they're full of plants. And the hosta was there. You can kind of see in the top middle of the before picture, you can see the bottom of our tree trunk, and to the right of the tree trunk there's a big hosta that's still there. To the left of the tree trunk there are some ferns. Those are still there. That's all basically that came when we moved in. That hosta, the tree, and the ferns. And then now I'll draw in a kind of a picture of from the same position of what the garden looks like now. We have a lot more growth, tons of native plants, lots of pollinator friends visiting the yard. I mean, this is the first year I've noticed we've had such a wide variety of pollinators come into the yard. I've seen things that I haven't identified yet. We had our first just naturally showing up ladybugs, which is great because we have some plants with aphids, and the ladybugs will feed on those. And then our first, we've gotten some fireflies before, but the other night we were in the yard after dark, and there were tons and tons of fireflies. So they're thriving here too. So it's just neat to see what changing what we plant has really changed what we see, the biodiversity that we see in our yard, and it's been totally worth it. This, I'll leave you with one more concept from We Are the Ark. I love what she said. She basically talks about, this is Mary Reynolds again, and she said something about how you don't have to turn an entire section of your town into some kind of nature preserve. If every person takes just a couple of feet of their yards and creates a space for native plants, we kind of create this patchwork quilt of native spaces for pollinators and wildlife. And we could all be doing a little bit of that. And that would be just as powerful as having some sort of, set aside native garden from your community. So I feel like I'm doing our little part. And if you are able to do your little part, go for it and talk to me about it. I want to know what you're doing because I'm very excited about this too. Okay, thanks for hanging out for a garden chat, and I will check in with you in another month. Hopefully more things will be blooming. I'll throw in some more pictures at that time. Okay, bye. Thanks for staying, and thanks for sticking around. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.